So, I'm sure everybody has seen the news of Andy Burnham maybe going for the seat that has now come up after the MP Andrew Gwynne has finally resigned. Now, obviously, there's been lots of speculation around this. However, he resigned, and I did get some quotes for you today, just to go back to the original story of Andrew Gwynne, because I just got to go back to it, haven't we? So, he was an MP who got messages leaked to the Daily Mail from his WhatsApp group, where he hoped a 72-year-old woman would soon be dead after she wrote to her local councillor about bin collections. Joked about a constituent being mown down by a truck, and reportedly responded to a message containing the name of an American psychologist, Marshall Rosenberg, saying he sounded too militaristic and Jewish, adding, "Is he Mossad?" So that's why he's had to step down. Now, that seat, the Gorton and Denton constituency, is in Greater Manchester. So obviously, as soon as the story got leaked yesterday to The Guardian that this was about to happen, immediately everything went from Andrew Gwynne all the way to Andy Burnham. He hasn't confirmed yet if he's running. If it changes during the show, we get some breaking news headlines, let me know. But according to the rules, he actually has to tell the NEC by tomorrow at 5 p.m. if he actually wants to run. And the reason for that is because the new Labour 2026 rule book that they have just released specifies that directly elected mayors and police and crime commissioners must seek the express permission of the NEC/SEC/WEC as applicable before seeking nomination as Labour candidates for the Westminster Parliament. The NEC, etc. decisions shall be final. Now, if anybody doesn't know, the NEC is Labour's executive committee. Now, traditionally, in a lovely democracy where powers are dissolved, local constituency parties would actually choose their MP. But when obviously big games are at play, that's not the way it works. And obviously, this recent change to the rule book is probably, come on, let's admit it, directed towards Andy Burnham. So first, he has to be selected by the committee, which is very factional. The whole fight over Lucy Powell becoming deputy leader was very much about getting on the NEC, because the deputy leader of the party gets to have a seat on the NEC. Therefore, she gets to have a vote on the NEC. Over the years, the NEC has been having infighting where Starmer's faction have gained control and other people have lost seats and lost power. So will they accept Andy Burnham? We don't know, because if you think about it, right, if you're Andy Burnham, you're the mayor of Greater Manchester, people call what's happening to Manchester over the last few years a success story. If you say to him that he can't be the candidate for this seat, then are you saying that he's not even good enough to be the Greater Mayor of Manchester then? Can they even deny him in this instance? What would that look like? How can they turn around and say, because you know what the journalists are like, a journalist will turn around to Keir Starmer and say, well, if he's not good enough for the candidacy for that seat, do you have faith in Andy Burnham? And then they're going to get trapped in a doom spiral of every Labour MP being asked every cabinet minister being asked if Andy Burnham's good enough to be Greater Mayor of Manchester. So it's going to cause even more drama. Now, if he does get selected, let's just say he does, once he's got through that battle, we need to look at the constituency last time with the results. So in the 2024 election, Labour secured the constituency with just over 50% of the vote, with Reform in second, Greens in a close third, and George Galloway's Workers' Party beating the Tories for a fourth place, who, I think it was according to the Daily Express, is actually rumoured to be running. What's a by-election without George Galloway? Obviously, just to throw another spanner into the works, according to the Times, who reported an hour or two ago, Angela Rayner will defy Keir Starmer and publicly back, allowing Andy Burnham to stand as an MP tomorrow. The drama. Damo, I'm just going to leave it open. Where do you think all this is going? Predictions of backlash, predictions of Andy playing the game. Will he even go for it?
There's going to be backlash because there's no win for Keir Starmer here anywhere. You've disappeared off the screen. It's just me. Can you not hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay. Well, we'll rumble on then. Lewis's third thing going wrong is obviously happened. It wasn't me after all. That rule you brought up there, that rule change a minute ago, they might as well have called that the Burnham rule, because as you alluded to just there, it's just been made. Well, that's convenient. I wonder why. Yes, to say Keir Starmer's terrified of Andy Burnham is not really anything like a secret. He's run scared for ages that this guy could end up possibly becoming an MP again, possibly could run to be the leader. It's all a lot of ifs and buts and whataboutery going on, if I'm honest. Burnham's quite happy in the mayoral position, I would imagine. I can't imagine why he would want to go back to the cesspit that is Westminster, especially with Keir Starmer as the leader. But I mean, all the machinations going around here is classic Starmer, as we've known from all the stitch-ups for positions and parliamentary seats and selections going to the last general election. He's a control freak. He has to be in control of this somewhere, somehow. And of course, the NEC is stitched up completely and very much compliant with Starmer's way of doing things, which is completely authoritarian. And even if Burnham were to become an MP, then he's got the hurdle of trying to become leader with all the changes that Starmer brought in to prevent another Corbyn type from ever becoming selected ever again. And the same thing could happen to Andy Burnham. You've got to bear in mind that the parliamentary makeup of the Labour Party now is far different to what it was when Burnham was last an MP. It's all Starmer yes men now. I mean, they are all just completely doing that all the time, and they just walk through the lobbies, vote as they're told, carry on. If they don't, as we've seen before, they can get punished horribly for things. I mean, voting against child poverty was awfully badly punished once upon a time, of course, until 1 year later they decided, oh no, that's an awful thing to do. But I would be very surprised if they let Andy Burnham go for it. I think Starmer would rather take the hit, the flack, from having a guy who's clearly good enough to be the mayor of Manchester, as you rightly identified, not being good enough to be an MP anymore, because he's been through this charade before. And here we go again, broadly speaking. But I don't even think if Andy Burnham even ran, I'm not sure Labour would even hold the seat anymore. As safe as that seat is, ostensibly on the figures that you just showed on the general election for 2024, Andrew Gwynne got literally half the vote, over 50%, and Reform was second with just over 14, I think. It's not the same picture anymore. Starmer got into power on all the promises that he made, and he shafted an entire country. And this is the first real parliamentary by-election test that he's had to face since he became Prime Minister, since he became a busted flush. And can you imagine what it's going to be like should such a safe seat as this actually be lost, potentially to Reform, or potentially even to the Green Party, perhaps? Because one thing he didn't mention just then is the rumours going around that perhaps even Zach Polanski could stand in this seat. And of course, he's a Manchester boy as well, just like Andy Burnham is. He's from Salford. So that throws another interesting spanner into the works. Throw George Galloway in as a bit of seasoning, and we've got quite a bit of action, so to speak, which could all, of course, coincide with the local elections in May if this ends up being voted on and decided at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute shit show. Like, if we look back at the Runcorn and Helsby, Helby?
Yes.
I was looking at the results yesterday, and Labour won 2024 with about 22,000. They lost 10,000 votes. Reform had something like 5.5 and won. Remember, everybody, by 6 votes. Sarah Pochin, there's too many black people on TV. Sarah Pochin, that she won by 6 votes. They increased their vote share by, I think it was like 6,000, which obviously, objectively speaking, is impressive. But in terms of the grand scheme of like how well Reform are doing, it's a by-election. But 5.5 to 12.5, meh, and only losing, despite the attacks. I would say in many ways, we all know that the media is unfair to the Labour Party in terms of the amount of criticism that they get versus, let's say, the Tories. Like, they got criticism, but obviously, I think we all know the media attacks on Labour, the way it's been spun right now is still unprecedented. Don't know if people agree with that. However, when it comes to actual results, they had 18,000 right at the last one. So, I don't have the numbers on here; they're on the graphic, but I think it was 18,000. So you can't just like directly compare a constituency. But if you put in that 18,000, and then you've got George Galloway, you've got Andy Burnham, you've got, let's say, Zach Polanski, whoever the Tories are going to throw in there. And also, as well, it's a by-election. There's going to be probably independents. There's always somebody else who wants to, maybe, what's his name? Count Binman, I always forget his name.
Count Binface.
Count Binface. He might even, turn up. It's just going to be an absolute shit show. I feel like it's weird because the only way to probably win it would be Andy Burnham, unless they pull out a rabbit out of the hat and bring back some old Labour person who's super popular and quite famous and has a reputation, maybe. But other than that, it just seems like it's going to be an absolute shit show, to be completely honest.
I think one aspect of this obviously has to be looked at, given we're looking at a by-election, is going to be turnout, and you can imagine Labour turnout is going to be even lower this time than it was previously. And I mean, the turnout for the general election itself, as uninspiring as both main leaders were with Starmer and Sunak as it was at the time, nobody was interested in either of them. They were both basically empty suits. There was fag papers difference between the pair of them. One of the things I just remembered, because I wrote a bit on this earlier on with my own content, because one of the ways that he might, Starmer might try and get around the Burnham problem, and the way that he might not, or might try to block Burnham from being able to stand. There's talk of all women shortlists, or even an all BAME shortlist, which would be catastrophic optics. He went down that road because, well, you can see
the woke wars.
So that could be one thing that comes out of this yet, and it, as you say, it's going to be an absolute shit show, but it's going to be entertaining no end for we political commentators who enjoy such things immensely.